evaluated Winkle and decided it's best to assimilate him back into society through exposure therapy.
Perry here has paid me a good sum to make you some accommodations.
All right, Winkle, whenever you're ready.
Hello, my name is Rip Van Winkle, and welcome to Pleasanton. Ever since I was arrested for the murder of Bartholomew Wolfenstein Bergerdorf, I have been reevaluated, and they say I can be reinstated into society through interviewing some of the people of Pleasanton and seeing how Pleasanton has changed, how the life in Pleasanton has changed. Is it still green? Let's find out.
Winkle quickly began searching for entities to communicate with. He noticed a tree in the distance and figured he'd talk to it. However, he was unaware of the loss of green. Maybe he will find green, or maybe he'll be the one to make the town green again. This is Winkle's Search for Green.
So, why aren't you green anymore? You're stumped. Oh, I see. So, you come around these parts often? You're a part of these parts. Dig it.
Winkle struggled to understand the absence of green. The weight of this epiphany left him aghast, and it was a weight he didn't want to accept.
It's not green anymore.
Why, God? Why? It's not green. It's not green.
After breaking into this school, I've found lots of evidence showing the decrease in green in Pleasanton. And it scares me. It really scares me, you know. What does this world come to? Why can't we have green? It used to be so green. The truth is, though, it's karma for killing Barty. If I never killed Barty, this world would still be green. She's cursing me, her ghost. Anyways.
Winkle went on to interact with a few more things to confirm the loss of green. He had a violent encounter with a bush and a water fountain, but both did not respond. Luckily, he may have found someone to interview instead.
So after a few failed attempts at interviewing to find people of Pleasanton, I have found one man who is willing to have an interview with me. Let's go meet him. Hello, everybody. My name is Rip Van Winkle, and we are here interviewing the lovely Mr. Jurek. Thank you for coming on, Mr. Jurek.
Of course.
We're going to ask you a few questions about life in Pleasanton and how Pleasanton has treated you over the years.
Yeah.
You are a long-lasting pedestrian of Pleasanton.
I am an inhabitant for 15 plus years now, so I've been here a while.
15 years.
Yeah.
All right. Well, first things first. State your name.
Michael Church.
Graduating class.
Of 2016.
2016,
yeah.
You just stated you've lived in Pleasanton for 15 years. As someone who was a Foothill High School student, how much has the school changed since your time being here?
Tremendously. I think in good and bad ways, right? That I think the student population has only gotten smarter, right? But I think the maturity of the students has only gotten lower. It seems odd. You would think that both of those would go together, right? That as students would get more intelligent, that the maturity would also rise, but they actually have an inverse relationship.
Yeah.
At least that's what I've seen. I think the other thing is there's been a lot more money put into the school, right? Especially in the past 10 years. Even after I graduated, I mean, heck, we've got new paint, we got the bathrooms have been redone. Since I graduated, we have 2 new buildings with a whole complex on the way, right? So I think they're really investing not only in location, but also in kids' futures outside of academics, right? So I know like aerospace is a big thing and engineering has been a big thing, and I think that is sort of geared towards the trades and trying to lead kids that way. So that's been a huge change on campus.
Lots of more money pumped into the school, but
Yeah.
and even though the IQ has gone up, the maturity has gone down. It's been a trade-off.
Yeah, it has been,
Right.
which is odd.
It is a bit odd, but that's just how it is.
It is.
Going off of your teacher's salary, how would you describe the cost of living in Pleasanton? You know, houses, rent, and bills.
Unreasonable. I think that's like the larger Bay Area,
Yeah.
right? But specifically in Pleasanton, and from my perspective as a teacher, right, that like you would hope that you'd be able to live in the area that you're teaching and be a part of that community. I think every teacher who gets hired wants to be a community member, not just on campus but off campus, right? And Pleasanton is not that, and it's not accessible, which makes it really, really hard. I think that results in very little buy-in from some teachers. Like some teachers have a really hard time, you know, really feeling invested in the school community because they're not invested in the larger community. Right. Like I know some teachers and some of my colleagues have lived here and they've lived here for 10, 15 years, and so they've been able to buy houses here. And they've been very fortunate. The kids go here and the kids have friends here, and that tie-in allows for teachers and, you know, grants teachers to stay here much longer, which is what you want. But for me, like a younger teacher, somebody who does not have a whole lot of equity, it is impossible. Right? It is impossible to live here, and, you know, the cost of commuting is, as much as I love being here, the cost of commuting, it makes it really hard. Right? To teach here and live somewhere else.
Oh, I understand that.
Yeah.
My mom's a nurse. She gets paid a lot, and even she has a hard time living here, you know, with all of her family here. It's even for her, it's difficult. So I couldn't imagine how hard it must be for you guys.
Yeah. So, but we love it. I know a lot of us love it. We do love it here. So
Great. It's a great area.
Yeah.
That's the payoff.
Yeah.
Did attending Foothill High School affect your decision of becoming a teacher?
It did. I had great teachers.
Yeah.
Right? That's the one thing that Foothill has always been very much so known for, is having very, very good teachers. And for the longest time, they were the top tier of the pay scale, right, for any district in the Bay Area. I think for me, it wasn't the vast majority of teachers that really influenced me into becoming a teacher. I think it was the few. Right? There was a couple of teachers that I really had, and it wasn't the best. Right? It wasn't the teachers who were like, you know, immaculate at their job and the ones that I felt like I learned the most. It's ones that I felt cared the most that really made me want to do the same thing for my students, right? And like, I mean, off the top of my head, you know, I think of like a Miss Ritchie, right? Heather Ritchie. She was one of those individuals that like was not only a fantastic teacher but a very caring individual. And then, you know, a teacher who's no longer with us, who's now retired, Mary Krobuk, was also very much so that individual here on campus. I very much so cared for her kids. We called her Mama Duck. She was Mama Krobuk. Yeah, she had this thing with rubber ducks. So, yeah. So I think those two specifically really influenced me into becoming a teacher, and, you know, so set that path for me.
The motivation that the good teachers put into making sure your education was good, that motivated
Yeah,
you
well,
to
and
become a teacher.
it's not just education, right? Because like there's great education. I mean, I can go on for the next 15 minutes about all the great teachers that are on here, and the teachers that I've had that are great. You talk about like the Middletons of the world, and like the Rosellis of the world, and like the Miss Yangs of the world, like fantastic, amazing teachers who I love tremendously and respect tremendously, not only as colleagues but as being, you know, a student in their classroom. It wasn't necessarily them that really pushed me into becoming a teacher. It's the ones that like cared about me, which might seem counterintuitive because you don't necessarily go into teaching to really care about kids. You go in to teach kids, but I think more people should go into teaching to care about kids, along with the teaching aspect.
They're happy to do their jobs, right?
Yeah, and they see kids for who they are.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. Yeah.
The future.
Yeah.
We're running out of time here, but how would you say the quality of life in Pleasanton is different from other places you've lived?
Well, I grew up, before I lived in Pleasanton, I moved around a lot. I was in Oakland and Hayward and San Leandro and San Lorenzo. I think the lack of fear that you have to have, like walking down the street, of like the fact that like most people don't lock their doors, just like the ability to be open and like communicate with anybody and kind of feel like, you know, there's limited pushback, right? That like the number of like, I guess, dangers that like we see on a day-to-day basis in Pleasanton is drastically lower than, you know, a place 10, 15 minutes down the road. Right? Whether it's, you talk about like gang violence and drug use, I mean, break-ins and like, you know, any of those things, right? And it's severely lower here. And I think we live in kind of a bubble because we live in this like perfect and like it's like a Hallmark bubble, right? Where like it is a world seemingly without violence and without pain and without suffering, right? That like the majority of the people who live here are middle class, upper middle class, and like they have no need to commit violence or no need to commit a crime. And when there is a crime committed, it is very few and far between. It is not very often. So
They might take it for granted sometimes.
oh, we do. We all.
Yeah.
I do. I know that. Yeah.
I don't take it for granted. I try my best not to take it for granted.
That's good. Yeah. So I think that's yeah. I think sort of the situation here in Pleasanton. So that was different.
Yeah. Would you say life in Pleasanton has improved or worsened since your time here? What about life at Foothill?
At Foothill, it's gotten better. In the city, it's also gotten better. We've had more diversity in the city, which is well needed.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely.
All right. Well, I think that's about as much time as we've got. But thank you so much, Mr. J.
Thank
you
you.
for letting us have you on.
Of course.
And
Winkle's interview with Mr. Jurek inspired him. It inspired him to go back outside and look for Green, but whether or not he will be lucky is unclear. For now, all he has to do is hope, or maybe he'll have another epiphany.
Well, after extensive research ever since I was released from prison, I have found that this town is no longer green, and it's in dire need of help. My passion, my dream, my goal, my purpose. I know what I need to do. I need to make this town green again.